Hi, Lenny.
Hi, Nancy.
Welcome to episode 120 of the Front Porch Book Club.
The Front Porch Book Club is a podcast that meets twice a month.
We like to dig deep into the relationship between characters and the worlds they live in.
Grab your book and iced tea and join us on the front porch.
Lenny, today we interview Nguyen Phan Que Mai about her most recent novel, Dust Child. Dust Child is the international bestseller that has won numerous awards, but perhaps most important, it's the 2025 One Book, One Lincoln selection.
I know you like your one book, one Lincoln selection process.
I do. And I love the whole city getting excited. You cannot believe the number of conversations that I have with people. Oh, who are the finalists? Okay, which books have you read? Who should be selected? I mean, it is a whole thing in Lincoln. And then when the book is selected, all the book clubs go rushing out and get the book. And then we all have to talk about it when we're at events and have you read the book? So it is kind of a big deal here in Lincoln.
Oh, you found other people who are passionate. That's so great.
Other readers, yes.
Well, this is a great book. Dr. Nguyen Phan Que Mai is the author of 13 books in Vietnamese and English. Her poetry in Vietnamese has been written into popular songs and has received top literary awards in Vietnam, including the Poetry of the Year 2010 award from the Hanoi Writers Association. Her writing in English includes 2 global best-selling novels, The Mountains Sing and Dust Child. She has been translated into more than 25 languages and has received the PEN Oakland Josephine Miles Literary Award, the International Book Award, the Book Browse Best Debut Award, the Lannan Literary Fellowship in Fiction, as well as runner-up for the Dayton Literary Peace Prize. She has a PhD in creative writing from the UK's Lancaster University. She was named by Forbes Vietnam as one of 20 Inspiring Women of 2021 and recently by the Research House of Asia as one of the top 10 female novelists shaping the literary scene in Southeast Asia. And we got her on our front porch.
Incredible. Wow. What an accomplished woman. Well, let's get to the interview. Welcome, Que Mai, to our front porch.
Thank you so much, Nancy and Linda, for having me on this podcast. It's my honor.
It's an honor for us to have you join us. We're really excited to talk to you about Dust Child. We loved your book. Now, Nancy and I are sisters, so some of the predominant people in the book are these 2 sisters. But before we dive in, first we just wanted to find out, how did you get started writing?
Oh, first of all, I need to say that I love sisters. I don't have a sister, so that's why I created the 2 sisters in the book. So
I was wondering.
I'm very jealous of you two. And I think it's amazing that you run this podcast and you read the same books and talk to the same author. So that's amazing. Thank you.
Oh.
So, like growing up in Vietnam, my family was experiencing a lot of poverty. It was just after the war. And we were living under the American trade embargo. So we didn't have much, but we had books, and books really enabled me to travel, and like gave me a lot of dreams. And I loved reading so much that I wanted to be a writer. But I was told that being a writer was dangerous. And also I couldn't be able to make my living. So I went on to do many other things. So I only returned to my writing dream. I went on to do many other things. I had a career in business. I was a marketing manager for a while. I did very well in communications, but at the peak of my career, there was like something missing, and I had a calling, and I had listened to so many incredible stories that I told myself, okay, now it's time to go back to my childhood dream. And, I was already in my 30s and I thought about it for so many years. But I decided to quit my job, stay home, and went back to school, So I did my master's in creative writing, and I wanted to be a novelist in English because, like so many books have been written about Vietnam in English, but so few have been written in the voices of Vietnamese people. So I wanted to reclaim our rights to tell our own stories. And it was a crazy dream because I didn't know a literary agent or a publisher. And I just invested years in writing my first novel, The Mountains Sing. And I couldn't find a publisher. So I went on to write Dust Child. So I drafted Dust Child without any pressure or any expectations. I just had to write the book because, I was a journalist. I interviewed veterans who had been returning to Vietnam to look for the children whom they once abandoned. And I interviewed them and they told me incredible stories. And I volunteered to help them connect with the women whom they had walked away from when they were pregnant. And I witnessed tearful reunions and incredible stories. So I thought I had to write this novel.
Wow, that's amazing. You also were a poet. You wrote quite a bit of poetry. And was that before you wrote The Mountain Sing and Dust Child?
Yes. So actually, when I grew up in Vietnam, we were surrounded by poetry. They were like every day. There would be poetry on the radio. We studied poetry in our textbooks, like newspapers always printed poetry.
Wow.
Poetry is like everyday life in Vietnam. So I kept my diary in poetry. I wrote my diary in the poetic form, but it was very bad. I would never publish it. Later on, I got a scholarship and I studied business in Australia and I met my husband. And we moved to Bangladesh to work there for a few years. And then when I went back to Vietnam in the year 2006, I felt so happy, to be at home again. And I was riding on a motorbike and I felt, I was in the middle of life in Hanoi again. So I composed poetry on my motorbike, which is something I don't advise you to do.
Right.
It touched me a few times for, like turning without blinking my motorbike.
Yeah.
So I paid heavy fines for my first poems, but they were published. And I was surprised because they won prizes. So then I just wrote for fun. And then suddenly I got, requests from publishers who said, you have traveled around the world. Why don't you write like travel stories for us? So I got commissioned to write my first prose book. And then I was translating a lot of Vietnamese poetry because I was so crazy about Vietnamese poetry. I wanted to invite international readers to Vietnam via our poems, I wanted the international readers to know Vietnam beyond the war. And I was translating poetry and publishing them. And until one day I thought, okay, not many people buy poetry books, so I should translate a novel. So I was looking for a novel to translate. And then one day I thought, maybe I should write this novel in English myself. And that began the very crazy dream of becoming a novelist in English. Because, I grew up in the countryside of Vietnam. I didn't have the chance to learn English when I was in the 8th grade. And when I got a scholarship to study in Australia, I couldn't understand English when I went there.
Wow.
But I studied, business English, right? So when I became a writer, when I tried to become a novelist in English, I had to kind of read every day, like keep a dictionary next to me, keep a notebook with all of the new English words. I wanted to write Dust Child like a novel, but also like a poem for Vietnam. I wanted it to be poetic. I wanted it to be literary. I wanted it to capture the Vietnamese spirit. So that's why it took me 7 years.
Well, for me, it did really capture that Vietnamese spirit, I think. And listening to you talk, I guess that's part of it, is that it was from the voice and the perspective of the people rather than the Americanized version. And I really appreciated that. And it really opened my eyes up in so many ways as to what was happening there for the Vietnamese people during the war.
Thank you so much. Because, I witnessed a lot of it firsthand. I was born into the war. So the war ended when I was 2 years old. But I still remember, like playing hide and seek in a bomb shelter in the garden of our home. I remember, all the women who were waiting for the return of their men in my village, who was emptied my village was emptied of men, and the men who came back had their limbs missing, or they were never they were very different. And when I was 6 years old, my parents decided to move the family to South Vietnam. So North Vietnam and South Vietnam was divided by the war. Like when I traveled by train along Vietnam, I saw so many bomb craters that were like gigantic ponds in the middle of the rice fields. And it was devastating. When I arrived in South Vietnam, one day I went to school, and I saw commotion ahead of me, and I ran towards it, and I saw a mother who had hung herself. So she committed suicide, and she left behind a note that her two sons had not come back from the war. So she had waited for so many years. So she decided to join them. So that really haunted me. That's why I was very compelled to write about the pain of mothers, of women.
Yeah.
Normally, when there are so many novels written about wars, but they are normally from the point of view of soldiers or battlefields. But I think there are worst things that happen at home, because like these women have to take care of the injured soldiers. They have to bring the family forward. And for Vietnam, a country torn apart by the war for more than 20 years, Northerners fought against Southerners, family members fought against each other. Healing has been very difficult. So I wanted to talk about that, about, how wars really destroy families, destroy our souls, destroy the fabric of society, damage so much culture and nature. And I'm just so devastated and frightened that so many wars are still going on. And they're just like very greedy and power hungry men who are in power, who
Yes.
just want to rule the world. And they cause damages for generations to come. The human life is so short. Like, okay, we live over 100 years old if we are lucky. But I mean, what is it? This life, we are born into this earth. We're all children of Mother Nature. We should help each other and live in peace with each other. I mean, greed and power doesn't help anyone. It destroys, it's evil. I'm just so upset with the state of our world.
Well, I echo your feelings there 100%. And I think your book illustrates in the way that you're writing it that sentiment.
Definitely. And I do love how it really is illustrated by the relationship between these two sisters. We live that in their experience. They shared many things, but they had very different ways of approaching life. So it's not that one approached life and wasn't harmed by the war. They both were harmed by the war, even though they approached it in two different ways. What was it about these two sisters that you thought these two are going to be main characters in this story?
When I was helping the American veterans reunite with their former girlfriends, then I talked to the women who worked in bars. They were just such beautiful human beings, so unique characters. And I mean, like growing up in Vietnam, I was told that they were like traitors because they were associated with enemy. And also in Hollywood movies about Vietnam, these bar girls appear as very stupid or opportunistic, like sexual. I read all the books that have been written about mother of mixed race children who were born into the Vietnam War. All of them abandoned their kids without any trauma, any remorse. For example, when I was talking to this woman whom I helped reunite with her American boyfriend after 46 years, She had given birth to this child and had given the child away when the child was a newborn. But she told me, like, during the past 46 years, I have so much regret. I would wake up in the night and thinking whether I killed my child by giving the child away. And I shared her feeling because I'm a mother myself,
Yeah.
and I think that no mother would give away their kids if they had a choice to keep the kids and raise the kids themselves. So I wanted to document their trauma, also like their love for their families. When I researched for this book, I was shocked that hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese women had to work in bars to serve American soldiers. There were like very bad exploitations, physical abuse, and so little had been written about these women, the circumstances why they had to work in those bars. Their humanity was robbed away. So I wanted to return the humanity with the character Chang and Quỳnh. And I wanted to create the sisters very differently. I don't know how different you two are, but
We're
like
different, yeah.
yeah. So one is like very romantic, very dreamy, like Chang, right? And Quỳnh, she's like fierce, she's realistic. She's like cutthroat business person. Because I've seen so many Vietnamese women like that. So I wanted to bring the real life Vietnamese women characters into the book. And like what happened to the sisters and the ending, was a shock to me, because when I wrote, I did not expect it would happen like that. I had no idea. There are two types of writers. There are some people who plan a lot when they write, but I can't plan. I have an idea of where the characters I would like them to go. But once I have built them, they are the one who lead me to the destinations where they want to go. So the ending of this book really shocked me. But I think everything made sense. I felt like, there's some certain spiritual thing that went on when I write fiction. There are things that I can't explain. It's like there was this like invisible power that drove my pen forward, that told me, where to go. Because like for me to write the character Dan, it was extremely difficult, because like me as somebody who's not even fluent in English, how could I write, in the voice of a traumatized American man? But, I've worked for years to translate for American veterans who had been returning to Vietnam. And I brought them to the battlefields. I witnessed their reunion with their former enemies. I saw so many tears and so much heartbreak. And also I read a lot of memoirs on helicopter pilots, by American helicopter pilots. And I talked to a lot of veterans. So some readers told me like they don't like the character Dan. My heart broke for Dan, right? Because I wanted to show how the war really destroyed him. Because when he went to Vietnam, he was a gentleman, right? He was like very gentle, very caring, very loving. But violence really eroded him and really destroyed him. I wanted to show the extent of damage that violence and wars can do to innocent people.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Dan a little bit. I liked the character, and I was glad that you had somebody's experience of that we could see through Dan and his wife, because his wife had her own personal journey too along the way. But I loved the guide. Is he pronounced Teeing?
Yeah.
Teeing. I loved him because he didn't let him off the hook. And I just thought that was great. He said, "Why are you here? What do you want? How are you going to meet her? What are your expectations? Are you going to break her heart again? Like, buck up, man." And Dan had no answers. Had very little introspection, I think, of what was supposed to happen. Is that what you're finding here when you're talking to these vets that returned?
No, I actually, the character Tien, I created him by myself. Because, for my experience with a lot of American veterans, with due respect, I respect them, but quite some of them were like very ignorant of Vietnamese culture.
Oh, yes.
And they came back and they wanted to find these women and expect things to kind of, and I'm like, no, these women had buried the past. They didn't tell their husband, their kids. You have to be very careful, very sensitive. So I wanted to highlight the ethical concerns. And I just wanted to say that, of course, American veterans suffered a lot, but compared to Vietnamese veterans, they are quite privileged, because their trauma has been acknowledged. They have veterans benefits, but like veterans of the Southern Vietnamese Army, they are not acknowledged by anyone. Like in Vietnam, they're called traitors until now.
Mm-hmm.
In the US, they are not part of this memorial. So I created this character Thien because I just wanted to challenge the narrative a little bit.
Thank you. I appreciated it.
And I love that he was a soldier also.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan and Linda are just not even thinking about who he is or where he came from. And finally, midway through the book, he's like, well, who do you think I am? I mean, I was fighting with you guys.
Yeah. Because, normally when people think about the Vietnam War, they think about, okay, there are two sides, American and like communists,
Yes.
The Northern Vietnamese. But there were Southern Vietnamese soldiers who were involved, and they're not normally acknowledged in the narrative.
Right.
So I wanted to create this character, and for me to write in the character of Thien also like a big challenge. I have talked to a lot of veterans from the Southern Vietnamese side. I have read a lot of books in Vietnamese by them. But, recently this book was published in Vietnam, right? And I was quite nervous because of Thien's character. It's like a very sensitive topic to talk about the trauma of Vietnamese soldiers, because like normally we don't talk about it. Trauma is something hidden in the Vietnamese culture. We don't talk about it. But I mean, the book is so well received in Vietnam, and I received so many messages from older Vietnamese men who shared with me their personal stories. So I think when it comes to humanity, it's so important to document humanity of everyone. And I want to share with you this story because when I started writing poetry, I wrote about the war. One day I met a Vietnamese veteran who's a very well-known poet. And he said, "You young women, how dare you write about the war? You were not there." He's still one of my favorite poets. And I was so shocked. But I thought everyone has the right to write about anything they want if they do enough research and they write it with compassion. And I think it's so important for women to write about conflicts and the war because we are able to bring different viewpoints, family perspective, feminism. We write about aspects behind the battlefield, beyond the battlefield. So then his comment made me more determined to write in the viewpoint of men.
Good for you.
So I have 3 men in this book.
Yes.
I'm glad that you did. The female perspective and what was going on is just as valuable and just as important. And the takeaway of what we can learn from experiencing wars through voices that are female, that aren't on the battlefield, are important to understanding why we need to not get ourselves into conflict and to stay away from war as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Also, my heart really ached when I wrote about Linda because I remember one of the books I read. This book is from a psychologist, and he had documented all the PTSD stories from wives of American veterans. And I think when soldiers come home, they bring the war and give it to their wives. And these women, they have to fight the wars head on. So, for her to have this kind of bravery to bring the husband to Vietnam to help him heal, and then to discover the terrible secrets and betrayal, for her to overcome that and to forgive him is such a big thing. But I wanted to talk about the human's capacity to forgive, to move on and to heal and to help each other, because I think it could have been more easy if Linda walked away from Dan.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been easy for her, but she decided to choose a difficult path, to stay and listen to his story, and then to agree on finding Kim and their child. So she's a very brave woman. And at the end of the book, I kind of let them build the friendship with the Vietnamese, because I've seen that with so many American people. I think I have always thought that American people are very, very kind. From my years of growing up, a long time ago, I've seen American people who traveled to remote areas of Vietnam and try to help the Vietnamese people. And that's a great quality. And I wanted to show that kindness that I have witnessed in American people.
Well, that's beautiful. I thought that this book so clearly conveyed the brutality of war, what it does to people who are involved in the war, either directly, the soldiers, peripherally, the people who are at home. I also thought it conveyed the humanity of people and how, as humans, we try to protect the ones we loved. For instance, I love how Gwen sends letters to her parents saying that Yang has gone to America to live with her American boyfriend and she's living a beautiful life. And I think how painful that would have been for that sister to continue to keep that story up because she wanted to protect her parents. And there are other instances of that, people who love one another, who are trying to protect each other to the extent that they can from the horrors that they've faced. I mean, in a way, Dan tries to do that, not well, with Linda by not telling her about Kim. Bad choice, maybe, but maybe somewhat self-serving, but also I think he thinks that it will protect her somewhat.
Yeah.
So I think that two sides of war was conveyed so beautifully in this book.
Thank you. So talking, like regarding your points about people making up stories to protect the ones they love, I remember there's mixed race person who contacted me after reading that child. And, like he has an American father and a Vietnamese mother, and he grew up in an orphanage and didn't know who his parents were. And he decided to find his mom when he was like in his 50s and found out that she was living less than an hour from him.
Wow.
So it was incredible. But then when they went back to the orphanage that he grew up in, he found out terrible lies that his mom had been telling him. So he couldn't understand his mom's behavior. And he called me after he read that child. He said, Quế Mai, please, can I call you and talk with you? And we Zoom for like 2 hours. And then he said, this book explained the reason of my mom's lies. I understood my mom much better now reading this book, the root of her trauma and the reasons why she made up these lies, to protect me. Trauma influences people's behavior in such complicated ways. So I think a lot of adopted people have reached out to me after reading this book, because I think it's finding family is a very complex thing. And through this book, I also wanted to highlight that there are unexpected consequences when you find missing family members. And that's another horrible aspect of war. I had this book signing at a city in America. And when I was then, this mixed race person, half Vietnamese, half American, came to me. And then he talked to me. And after that, I was so compelled by his story. So I sat down with him. He said he decided to find his mom when he was in his 50s also. And he's the most beautiful, good-looking person, had a very successful career. And then when he did the DNA test, he found a half-sister in Vietnam. And he went back to Vietnam to see the mom, because the mom was living in Vietnam. But the mom refused to see him. And then before his flight, she agreed to see him for 30 minutes only.
Wow.
Do you know the reason why? He was born out of a rape.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So she did not want to see him. And for him to find that truth, my God, it really broke him to pieces, his life. So it's like these are the consequences of war. Undocumented, they go beyond the number of deaths and injuries. It's horrible. And we talk about trauma for generations to come. And I don't know why humans keep doing this to other humans.
Yeah. I thought Fong was such a great character in this book because, again, he is living that life. And these are stories that you heard. He really puts his life on hold because he believes he belongs in America, where he thinks he'll find his father, that he'll no longer face discrimination. I'm curious, are Amerasians still facing discrimination in Vietnam?
Yeah. Okay. Especially, the dark-skinned Amerasians. There's a story in Das Chai that Phong went into a food shop. He applied to be a kitchen hand.
Yes.
And then the restaurant owner said, if I let you wash the dishes, my customers would run away because you would make the dishes dirtier. And this happened to one of the Amerasians whom I interviewed. And I think their access to resources are very limited because they didn't have a chance to go to school. So I know Amerasians in Vietnam who are not able to read, to write. So they can't have a proper job. They don't have bank accounts. They don't know how to deal with different requirements of the society. So it's very difficult for them. So they're disadvantaged against. The sad thing is that so many few people know about the experiences of Amerasians. And what I wrote in the book is the truth that they were homeless and the people were selling them as tickets for America. And when they arrived in America, a lot of them were abandoned because they were not really loved by the families who had tried to adopt them and use them as tickets, right? So their trauma is like, there's so many layers of their trauma that I needed to talk about. So, I wanted to show Phong not as a victim. So Phong is a mixed race person, but he's also an artist. He's a rice farmer. He's a musician. He's a loving father. So I wanted to document his humanity as well.
Mm-hmm. So I was so pleased to meet you at the reception for you in Lincoln, Nebraska, where you are being celebrated as the author of our now current One Book, One Lincoln selection. So I'm curious, what's been your experience since Das Child was selected?
Oh my God. My visit to Lincoln was one of the highlights of my life.
Oh,
because I did not know what to expect. I mean, okay, I've heard about, this reading program of different cities, right? And I always dreamed of my book being selected for one of such programs. But Nebraska, when I was contacted, I'm like, where is this? And I had never been there and I knew no person there,
Yeah.
So I was kind of nervous. So that's why I booked. And it's so far to travel, right? I had to travel like 2 days to get there. And then because I didn't know anyone, so I booked my tickets to be there only for 3 days because the jet lag was so terrible. I thought I'll go there, do the program, and then just go home right away. So I didn't suffer much from jet lag. And I regretted for being there so short because I had the most wonderful welcome. I mean, I found a big family there, from the Asian community to the whole Lincoln community. The One Book, One Lincoln committee were amazing. Like, they took me out to lunch. I worked at so many parties and receptions. And I mean, the conversations about the book was just so amazing. And I love visiting the bookshops and talking to people and celebrating Halloween. And I'm like, it was like a dream coming true. And, I love visiting the high school and talking on the radio. And the evening event at Lincoln High School was just something I would treasure. I mean, Ryan, the library director, was just so kind and says amazing words. And then I couldn't believe that the mayor was there.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
You have such a great city because like you have a great mayor who's an avid reader, and like her book club had read my book before, and she had such nice words to say. I mean, my conversation there, on stage and with everyone was just so amazing. So my heart is filled with thanks. And I've been working hard on my third book because people were like, when your next book is launched, please come back for include us in your book tour. So that's why I've been working hard to come back to Lincoln.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, Lincoln is I do love Lincoln as well. And our mayor is a good friend of mine, and she is such a gift to this city. And I
Oh,
love Ryan also, our library director. I mean, we have wonderful, wonderful leaders in Lincoln.
thank you. And it's great that a city could sustain such a reading program for a long time. So I just want to convey my sincere thanks to all the readers, in Lincoln and the supporters of the program. I think it's great. It's reading that something that can bring us together in this divided world.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And what you were talking about as a young girl reading in Vietnam, you lived the lives of other people that you would never meet any other way. You travel to places you may never have the experience to travel to. And it opens your eyes to the similarity of experiences, the similarity of dreams, the differences between experiences. And I think readers are some of the most humane people around.
Yeah, I felt like I have found a big family with my novels, The Mountain Sing and Dust Child, because I think people who read my books could understand me ultimately, my values as a person, my beliefs, and my wish for peace. So I'm just very lucky that I have this job, that I can travel and meet people, and for my books to be in Lincoln before I could be there. It's just a great privilege. I mean, it's like more than a dream coming true.
Well, I love your passion for peace. And I'm a volunteer with the American Red Cross. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your work as an ambassador for Shelterbox. I guess it's Shelterbox Book Club.
Yes.
And it's a United Kingdom charity book club. And it's raised a lot of money, like 1 million euros.
1 million pounds.
To provide emergency shelter for families after disasters. So can you tell us a little bit more about Shoebox Book Club and your involvement as an ambassador?
Actually, I'm an ambassador for several organizations. I love to work as volunteers. And Linda, I love the fact that you volunteer with the Red Cross. I think it's so important. The Red Cross is doing such an amazing work. And talking about peace, when I was a small child, I stood on the dirt road of my village and I was looking at the destruction around me, at the people who lost their arms and legs. And I told myself the human race could not be so stupid as to wage another war. Just look at this. As a small child, I really believed naively that there could not be another war after the Vietnam War. I really believed in that. And growing up, I learned that I was too naive and there's too much power and greed behind each and every war. But I think every one of us can do our small parts, to fight for peace. First of all, by electing the right leaders who love peace, who are not greedy for power or for wars. Also, by in every day activity, we can contribute to peace. So I'm an ambassador for Peace Tree Vietnam, an organization that actually removes unexploded bombs in Vietnam and planted trees and built kindergartens and schools in the area affected by the bombs. So this organization was founded by an American whose name is Geraldine, and her brother was actually a helicopter pilot who was shot down in Vietnam when he was trying to rescue American soldiers. So when Geraldine heard the news of his brother's death, she thought about her mom and Vietnamese moms, and she told herself, when the war ends, she would do something to bring our two countries together. So
Wow.
Peace Tree Vietnam is a wonderful organization. They do diplomacy trips, like they bring veterans back to Vietnam and help them plant trees. So, one of my readers, his name is Jay, and he contacted me after reading my novel, The Mountain Sing. His father fought in Vietnam. And, I introduced him to Peace Tree, and he went back to Vietnam with Peace Tree and visited the place where his father was, and he planted trees. And he was so moved. I was in Vietnam at that time, so I invited him to my home and had a meal with my parents.
Oh,
So it was I think it was a healing trip for him. So
wow.
Peace Tree does a lot of wonderful things. I'm also an ambassador for Room to Read. So like in Vietnam, we don't have resources for libraries. So I've been trying to set up libraries in very remote areas of Vietnam. So for example, I donated 100% of the Vietnamese editions of Das Child to building new libraries in Vietnam.
Wow.
I also called on readers' contribution. People could donate a few dollars and it would buy so many books in Vietnam because books are cheap in Vietnam. Anyway, so we opened a library already a few months ago. So I just raised some like nearly $10,000 to help this Room to Read organization to restore the libraries damaged by recent flooding and storms in Vietnam. Vietnam is one of the countries affected very badly by climate change. So we have experienced unseen flooding and storms that damaged so many schools and libraries all around Vietnam. So Room to Read is an organization that is a non-profit organization that builds libraries in remote areas where there are no libraries. So I have been working as a volunteer with them. So for Shelter Box Book Club is a UK charity. So we do emergency reliefs around the world. So people don't need to donate. They just need to become a member of this book club. So they pay a membership, but they get a lot of free books. So they read and discuss every month. And what they pay goes towards emergency services. So build homes that were lost in earthquake or storms and flooding or emergency relief. So very like life-saving things or services. I feel very lucky that I have been able to do something in my position as an author to champion the organizations that have been doing a lot of amazing work. I'm also an ambassador for the Danish Vietnamese Association. They help me raise funds for the library in Vietnam, and we do a lot of cultural exchange between Vietnam and Denmark. So, I love to volunteer. and I must say that I don't think I could have been able to write my novels without my years of working as a volunteer, because like in Vietnam, when I worked in Hanoi, I set up a charity organization. We were all volunteers. We went to the hospital and to take care of kids with cancer. So in Vietnam, there's a very high rate of childhood cancer because of Agent Orange.
Right.
To Vietnam during the war. So there's a lot of childhood cancer. And because of poverty, there's little psychological support. So I went there and I brought like students from arts university to paint the walls. I set up a free meal program. I went to like 5-star hotels in Hanoi and I said, I need to organize birthday parties for these kids with cancer because they have never had birthday parties because they come from the countryside. So every month, my group now in Vietnam, they are still operating. They can get free cakes from the 5-star hotels and bring them to the hospitals and do, the birthday parties. I think there's a lot of kindness out there if you know how to approach it. So I was just a preach. I was just saying, okay, come to the hospital with me. I can show you, what your donation can mean. So that was some of the most meaningful things that I did. And to give back something to society, you receive like 1,000 times more.
Yeah. Wow, that is so inspiring to take your experiences growing up, the way that you looked around you and saw the way the world was and the way you thought the world should be, and becoming involved and creating some of these nonprofits, being ambassadors for others. This is a beautiful way of, I think, challenging all of us to think about, okay, now what can we do? We look around, we see these kids don't have birthday parties. We can fix that. Let's do something. There are unexploded mines. People need to know about it. And what can we do, not just to remove the unexploded mines, but how can we make that a healing process? We're going to plant trees. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. And like these experiences taught me so much. It taught me so much, and it opened my eyes, and it showed me like how lucky I am to have a roof over my head, to have the food that I want to eat. I remember when I was in the hospital and I took the kids to a circus. And then I took them to the park and we were just like eating ice cream. And they just like, can we have another normal day?
Yeah.
And these kids have been in the cancer ward for years. They had these terrible cancer and they were surrounded by needles and by the fears of dying. In hospitals in Vietnam, like there were like 3 kids in a small bed.
Oh, wow.
The parents had to sleep on the floor. So to give them one day of being normal, of being a normal kid, and they were just like, can we have another normal day? So that's why I wrote in my book, The Mountain Sing, how many of us are having normal days and not realizing how lucky we are.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we think about the people in Ukraine or in Palestine at the moment, I mean, they would yearn to have a normal day.
Yes.
That would be a day of blessing, but I don't have it. But we have the normal days and we may be wasting it, doing useless things. So because I was involved in these things, I reminded myself to make use of each moment and not waste it, because it's a gift from God. Time is a gift from God. We are gifted this limited life, but we could prolong it by the deeds that we do. Because like I said, when you give a little, you receive 1,000-fold.
Absolutely. I love this conversation. I can't wait to hear, what are you working on next? I feel like you've already given us so much in your writing and this discussion, but now I'm hungry for more. What are you working on?
Thank you. I'm working on a book based on my childhood experiences. I want to set a book after the Vietnam War during the peacetime, but it wasn't peace yet. Vietnam was still like struggling under the American trade embargo, also economic reform and overcoming all the war's disasters. I wanted to talk about the resilience of Vietnamese people during that time and the courage of some people who were fighting against banned books.
Yes.
and censorship, because this is something that has affected my life all the time. And I see this trend is like growing very dangerously, like everywhere books are being banned.
Yes.
We are being limited in our ability to read and enjoy book, and I want to fight against that. So I have finished a few drafts of this novel, so it has gone out to my first reader, so I'm just editing it. And I hope that this year my agent will read it. I have a wonderful agent, Julie Stevenson, and who helped publish both of my novels. She's amazing. When I sent my manuscript to other agents, they were like, okay, she writes in her second language. She's from a faraway place, and I did not have any chance. But Julie, she was so enthusiastic about my work. She's amazing. I have been commissioned to write a travel book about Hanoi.
Oh.
Yeah, so this book will be published in the US as well. So there's a publisher called The Walking Tree, and they commission novelists who have written successful novels set in a city, because they love my novel, The Mountain Sing, which is set in Hanoi. So that's my first novel. So they approached me and asked me to write my book about Hanoi. And I just love that because, that city is where I became a poet on a motorbike.
Yes.
And, So, so I have so many stories, and I want this book to be a companion of the people who visit Hanoi for the first time, history and culture and the way of life, but through the lives of the people. I'm so excited about this book. So I've been writing on it, working on it, and I just can't wait to invite people to visit Hanoi with this book. I'm very, very excited.
That's so exciting. You have your hands in so many different projects and ideas. I'm so inspired. What is the best way for our listeners to stay in touch with what you're doing?
Oh, first of all, I need to thank those who are listening to us. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. And I really love these conversations. I love to connect with readers. So please connect with me on my social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I have my updates there. So you can send me messages, and I love to interact with readers there. And I just want to say that I love Lincoln and I love the people of Lincoln. And I would love to be back one day when the third book is out. And I just want to thank so many people who supported my book and who brought me there and who championed stories from Vietnam. This is just an incredible privilege. And thank you for supporting the Front Porch Book Club podcast. What a great name. I mean, Front Porch. I mean, this is where I write.
Oh, do you? That's great. Oh, I love it. Well, I'll put links to all of your social media accounts on the notes page for this episode. Thank you so much. This has just been so wonderful visiting with you and hearing your story, talking about Dust Child, but hearing about your heart and where you're investing your life. And it's so beautiful and inspiring.
Thank you so much, Nancy and Linda, for this conversation. I felt like I was speaking to my best friends, it wasn't like an interview. It was really a lot of fun and heartfelt. So thank you very much. Oh, I want to say that Dust Child is being developed into a movie. Has been optioned by a film producer, and we have chosen the director, who's Vietnamese American. So very, very exciting.
Oh, congratulations on that.
Wonderful.
I want you to know that I'm an extra sometimes. So if you need a Linda, I am happy to be that role.
Yes. And your name is Linda too. So this is
yes.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, a film project takes a long time, but we will work hard on it.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Oh, well, congratulations. That's awesome.
We need you on set, Linda. Thank you.
It was lovely meeting you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to your book club members as well. Xin cảm ơn rất nhiều. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Can you believe we got to talk to her?
She was so wonderful.
Nancy, I don't know if you could tell. I think you could.
You were crying.
I was crying the whole time.
You were. I could tell.
I couldn't even carry on a conversation. So thank you for taking the lead. I didn't know how big my face was on the screen. She touched my heart.
Absolutely.
Her passion and the person that she is. What a beautiful person.
Gorgeous. Her writing does so clearly convey her love for humanity, how she hates the brutality of war. She conveys how it damages people. She conveys how it damages resulting generations. And yet she is so loving. She is so loving. And then to hear about all of her volunteering work that she's doing, I feel like I just talked to one of the most remarkable people I've ever met.
I know. It's amazing. She is amazing. We need to listen to more voices like hers.
Yes.
Right? In our society and our culture.
Yeah.
What a wonderful ambassador for her people too. Because you're like, Well, she's wonderful. Are there, wonderful people in Vietnam? I'm sure there are, but
Yeah.
she is a standout. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm still crying.
Yeah.
She just really touched my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
And yet she was so complimentary about Americans and how kind they are. She is one of those
She's
people.
a beautiful heart.
Yeah. She just sees love everywhere she looks, and she radiates love.
She does. She absolutely does.
Yeah.
Ugh. Ay, ay, ay.
And did you catch that she said she's not very fluent in English?
I did catch that. I don't understand that.
Oh,
she speaks better English than most Americans.
She does. She does.
I mean, we can't hardly figure out lots of stuff.
I know. Yeah. And she was so right about the portrayal of Vietnamese people in what we have consumed about the Vietnam War, about these bar girls. We don't hear much about Vietnamese soldiers who fought alongside GIs. I mean, we have a very American-centric culture around the Vietnam War, of course, right?
Yep.
But I do love how, again, she is a woman of action. She looks around and she says, none of this represents the Vietnamese voice, the Vietnamese experience. So I guess I'll write an international best-selling novel to start to correct the lack of narrative from that perspective.
I'm blown away, Nance. Yeah. I'm blown away by her. There is a humility, though, because she didn't know if anybody would buy this book. She didn't even know she could get it published. She just wanted it out there.
Right.
Yeah.
She wanted to try.
She wanted to try.
Yeah.
Well, what an important book. What an important voice, and such important lessons for us all to learn and think about.
Yes.
They're so pertinent for today. Can we not learn? Can we not learn from our past?
Right. And this isn't just made up. She based so much of this on interviews that she did. She also didn't mention she has a PhD also. Just a little side note.
Of course she does.
Right. That didn't come up in the interview. And her dissertation was interviews that she did with soldiers, people in Vietnam, about their experiences in the Vietnam War. And many of the stories are inspired by those true stories. And we heard a few of them, her stories about, I had a conversation with this person or that person, and it shows up in the book. But in so many ways, this is so powerful because it is rooted in what actually happened, what people's experiences really were.
Yeah.
And why are we doing that to one another?
Right. Oh my goodness.
I love her implicit challenge. I think she's too loving and she's too humble to actually challenge us. But I love the implicit challenge to make a difference where you can, when you can.
I would agree with you. I'd say it's an implicit challenge.
Yeah.
And I don't even know that she has such a beautiful spirit about her. I don't even know that she would recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is there. You hold your mirror up to her and you go, maybe I have some work to do.
Right.
Just a little.
And here's the thing. You can be overwhelmed by the fact that you only started learning English in 8th grade. You can be overwhelmed by the fact that your entire country is still trying to recover from a devastating war 50 years later. You can be overwhelmed by the greed and arrogance of world leaders. You can be overwhelmed by all of that and just sit and complain about it. Or you can say, what can I do? And that really speaks to my heart because that's what I've been thinking about. I can complain about what's happening in the world, but what am I going to do about it? My complaining doesn't do anything. What action can I take in my world, the world that I do have the ability to make change in, or that I can take action in? What can I do in that world?
Yeah. Good questions. She found answers for herself, right?
She found answers.
Yeah. Wow. an impressive human being. I'm so glad we chose her book. I learned so much from the book, but I learned so much from her too. I highlight for me. Absolutely. All right. Stop by the front porch next time when we will review Laws of Love and Logic. And that book is written by Deborah Curtis.
Yeah, thanks everyone so much for listening. Our website is frontporchbookclub.com, and I will put links to so many of the things we talked about in the episode notes.
Our episodes come out twice a month on the first and third Wednesday of every month.
Okay, Lenny. See you next time.
See you, Nance.